Welcome to the Unfiltered with Kara podcast. I created this podcast for one reason and one reason only. I want to help you live your best life while you journey out here as a human for an average of 28,000 days. Tune in for conversations, inspiration, tips, and tricks for freeing yourself from the bullshit that weighs you down so you can create a full and happy life, a life that is worthy of you. Welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered with Kara podcast. My guest today is Nerissa Trindade, and you, my friend, are in for a treat. Nerissa is a neuro-transformational coach, international keynote speaker, and two-time best-selling author. Once terrified of public speaking, Nerissa now moves audiences globally through powerful stories, inspirational content, and dynamic delivery. Nerissa is the founder of the Speak for Impact and Say Yes to You programs. She has enabled countless leaders and changemakers to discover their YOUnique, spell Y-O-U, superpower, unlock their full potential, and develop the mindset, skill set, and tool set to step into the next best version of themselves. Nerissa has coached people from over 52 countries, and her unique approach bridges the age divide and resonates in a way that enables people to excel both professionally and personally. And I have had the honor and privilege to be in spaces with Nerissa, and when I tell you, a gem of a human. And I've had a personal experience with her standing and holding space for even my transformation. So without further ado, I give you Miss Nerissa Trindade. So welcome, Nerissa Trindade, to the Unfiltered with Kara podcast. Yes. So excited to have you. I've been wanting to have you because I've experienced you, and because of the impact that you've had just by your presence, I was like, I can only imagine what impact she's going to have when she speaks to my people, to this audience. So obviously I've heard you speak as well. But there
Yes.
is something about your presence that's what was most notable for me. And so, as you were just saying, it is 7 a.m. right now in Australia, Saturday for you, and it is all the way back Friday p.m. for me. So thank you so much for waking up this damn early to give me a gift of Nerissa. I'm not going to tell them about you too much. I know who you are. You're a neurotransformational coach. You're all these things on your bio. But I would like for you to just introduce yourself. Let the lovely people who are listening into Nerissa's world and to Nerissa's amazingness tell us who you are and what are you up to in the world.
Sure. Yes. Hello from the future, as I say, when I come into doing anything with you lovely people there, because, it is 7 a.m. Yeah, I'm Nerissa Trindade, or for people in my inner circle, I say call me Riss. My pronouns are they, them. I am, if you look me up, yes, I am a neurotransformational coach. I am a keynote speaker. I help people in speaking. I help people find their true, authentic voice and then share their story. So whether you're somebody that comes to me and says, hey, I'm not sure how to navigate this particular thing in my life and how do I move forward in it, then let's tap into it. Let's understand, let's unpack where it came from, where it originated from, and I help you change the narrative really and create new pathways and new lenses for the way that you look through life, who you be and who you become, and just how you navigate the world. And then I help people share their story. I run a program called Speak for Impact that, helps people raise diverse voices, powerfully share story, and impact lives. And it's really about just, living and doing life in the best way we possibly can, stepping into our next level and being just all around good humans. I think I like that beautiful Maya Angelou quote, when we know better, we can do better. And I think as we go, we're not all healed and not all evolved, but we're on this journey of healing and evolving and doing better and being better. And as we get to be better. I always say it's like an opportunity to get to be better and do better. Then we can, like, turn back and go, hey, who can I help now on this journey? And I think if we can leave this place, this world, this planet just a little bit better for being here, then yeah, that's the mission.
Yeah. So, but as you know, and as I know, the people that end up doing this kind of work and want to serve in that way, there's certain things that happen in our lives that cause us to look to doing this work and going on this path. So I'm gonna get right into it because I'm into getting into the nitty gritty. Let's get dirty. Let's get our hands dirty and talk about the
Jump
stuff.
right in.
So, yeah, give me that. What
Give
led
you the
you
dirt.
to
Yeah.
this work? Why did you feel the need to go on these various platforms like, the Lisa Nichols campus that I met you on and wanting to hold space for someone else to do this? Because again, it takes a human who's had some stuff to
Yeah.
unpack and in
Some stuff.
unpacking, st some stuff to unpack, and in unpacking, wanting to then turn around and say, "You know what? I just wanna shorten that learning curve for the next person behind me." So let's talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, you know, anyone that's doing this work has been in the work in some way, shape, or form. And I think anyone trying to, preach from a platform or from a mountaintop and that hasn't been in the journey, really, I mean, yeah. So I think definitely the reason I am who I am and the reason I do what I do is because I've been on that journey. Like, I've been in personal transformation myself for probably the last 20 years on my own. Not even 20 years, let's say 35 years, in terms of just being and navigating all that life throws at you. Uh, yeah, let's jump into it. So I often say, like, my life now is unrecognizable from what it was before because, when, like, all the things I said before, like, I speak and I coach and I show up authentically in a world that often tells me not to be who I am. And, if I go back and think about the life I was living, I grew up back in the 1980s, back in India. And growing up, I was told that everything about me was wrong, like literally everything from the way I walked, the way I stood, the way I spoke, everything. I was bullied in school. I was misunderstood at home. And I was just made to fit and conform into this person that I just wasn't. As every part of my identity was dissected and stripped away, I felt like parts of me were being taken away. I felt like I had to be conformed and pushed into this mold that I had to fit. And I'm sure, like, listeners listening and probably yourself as well, like, as we hear people's limiting beliefs, as we hear the narratives that people set on us, we start believing that. And often what starts becoming is that we become that narrative. Whether we know it consciously or unconsciously, we become what people think we should be. And we start living our lives confined and defined by their definitions of us. And that's exactly what I became. Like, because 97 of the people in my life growing up believed that I would never be anything or become anything, that's what my narrative became. So I believed that I would never be anything or become anything. I believed that I was not worth anything, that I was not lovable, that it was literally drilled into me that I was useless and I was worthless growing up, that I would never be anything or become anything. So I literally thought that, like, everything that I went into, I took that narrative and that lens that I can't do this. Like, I'm not worth this. Like, I cannot be this. I cannot become this. Like, I'm just useless. So I was like, what's the point in me even investing in me or even doing anything because it's not going to become anything? So that was my life. And the way that it showed up was through a series of failure. Like, I failed in school, I failed in university, I failed in love, I failed in life. And over time, I just became
You
that
quote unquote
narrative.
failed, because let's
I
make sure we
quote
put
unquote
those on
failed.
quotes because it's
Right,
failing a standard, not really failing. I
right,
just wanna
right,
I just wanna, package it that way because really you're failing a standard. That's not
right.
yours. Right.
Absolutely. And I say I failed because I was failing in the expectations of what everybody else thought I should be. And when like, when there's should, there's shame, and there's the whole narrative around I should be this, whereas I'm not. And why am I not that? And I literally failed as well. Like, I failed in school. Like, I failed my board exams in year 12. Like, I was like, if we're gonna fail, we're gonna fail at the highest level.
Let's
Like, let's
fail
not
big.
fail in junior school or primary school or whatever you call it. Let's fail at the highest level. Like, I failed in, like, my board exams in year, like, 12. I was like, okay, so I had to repeat year 12. Um, like, I literally thought I had become the failure, that my life was a complete write-off. And it was only when I got to the point where I then moved from like India to Australia. And then I thought if I got on a plane and moved, that my old narrative wouldn't come with me. But like I packed everything in my suitcase, this lovely old narrative and limiting beliefs and fears and everything like that came along with me as well.
In your backpack full of
In my
rocks.
backpack, in my suitcase, in my heart, in the
Right.
bloodstream, literally like just walking
In
with
your
me
cells.
in my cells, right? It was cellular at that point, right? Because whether I went for a job interview, whether I went into a relationship, whether I went into a friendship, I believed that I was useless, I was worthless, I would never be anything, I would never become anything. That was my narrative. That was what was drilled into me at the core of my being. So there was nothing else I could be. Growing up, the biggest thing that I was told was not to be me. Don't walk like me, don't sit like me, don't stand like me, don't speak like me, don't be me. So the question that I kept having was that if I can't be me, who else can I be? Like, don't be me. Like, wait, how am I meant to go through life not being me? Like, what other version can I be? So then I
Right.
started looking to all these other people to like, can I be that? Can I, like, who can I be?
Are you
And there was,
shopping for another personality when you're a whole
right,
person, but now you gotta be shopping for different parts of somebody else to like, you see the craziness? But I'm
yeah,
so glad you're fleshing this out because I hope that the listeners are hearing the absurdity behind how we are brought up
yeah.
made to feel like something is wrong with us and that we have to eventually come back to self because there was never anything wrong. But I don't wanna spoil where she's taking it, so let me just let her
No,
do it.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's exactly that, like we're told like so much of what we're doing is wrong, and then we trying to go away from what's wrong to kind of make ourselves right, and then we sit in this whole thing of perfection and trying to be right when really what is wrong and right, like we're just being us, we're just
Right.
being. And people often ask me like how I identify who I am, and I say I'm me. Like this is me in this version, in this season. Like this is who I'm being, this is who I'm becoming, this is who I'm unbecoming, what I'm unlearning. Like this is just the journey, right? And so much of what we do is in the journey rather than in the destination of where we're getting, right? It's in that process. And for me, a lot of that personal journey came from that. It was just answering. I remember sitting in a room full of people and thinking, tomorrow if something would have happened to me, would anybody know who I am? Would anybody ask even like, who is Nerissa? Or do they miss me? Do they not know that I'm here? And when I asked that question, I thought, well, how can anybody else know who I am when I myself don't know who I am? Because for so long, like you said, I'd been grasping at another version of myself, like living through somebody else's lens, like somebody else's view, like shrinking, like literally shrinking into every room I went. Like I would sit at the back of classrooms, at the back of meeting rooms, like so scared to even raise my hand. Like what I do today, like I speak on like these stages, like globally. I travel internationally to speak, but I coach people how to speak and share their story. But when it came to me, like years ago, you couldn't pay me like to even raise my hand and speak in a meeting room. Like you gave me a mic, I would run away. Like I'd be like, no way, like give it to the next person. Like that is not me.
'Cause
Because
you
I
hadn't
was
found your voice. It
I
was
hadn't
you didn't have your voice yet.
yeah.
Yeah,
I hadn't found me, let alone my
yeah,
voice, right? My voice was blocked. I was blocked because I was trying not to be me. So when there was no me, there was no voice as me. And the
right.
more I looked externally, I'm like, can I be that person or that person? Or like you said, shopping for different things. And whilst we're shopping for different pieces of identity, we're also shopping for validity in that. Like we're shopping to say, tell me this part of me is okay. This part of me is right. This part of
That
me
I
is
borrowed.
valid, borrowed and valid through your lens, not through mine, but through yours. And what happens then? We're just seeking this external validation constantly that doesn't align with who we are internally. And there's this mismatch and this constant need to please and show up as this right version. And I remember just shrinking or like fitting into a mold of who I wasn't. And it's when I actually, like, it was when I turned 30, it was coming up to my 30th birthday. And I just went, I cannot live this lie anymore. I cannot, live a version of who I'm not,
'Cause it's
and
heavy to carry, isn't it?
it's
It's
so heavy.
heavy to carry because it's
It's,
like
yeah,
it's a phony show. It's an act, and you can't, ho like, who wants to wake up and act every day? You know, like if and you're not even paid for it. But go ahead. Right.
And you're so true. Like the more you're acting, the more you're not being authentic yourself, the more you're acting, the more like energy you're giving that, because it's almost like I've got to be this person that I'm not. So when in all these attributes and personalities and identities that I'm borrowing, I'm spending time investing into that. Like, I would literally go into meeting rooms and sit a certain way and stand a certain way so people wouldn't think I was gay. Like, I'm like, oh, if I stand a certain way, people are going to think or like out me. And I'm like, really, like, how much time and effort was that taking away from me? Like, how do I dress?
Managing what people could be thinking that they're probably not even looking at
Right,
you.
right. Managing so much of the not me. Like,
Right.
how much energy can I put into not being me?
Managing so much of the not me.
Right, right,
That.
that. Yeah, that. Like, like how much energy can I put into the not me so people can not see the me? Because the me was wrong. Like I couldn't be the me. So anyway, by the time I got to like I think that 30 turning 30 was like that, almost like that pivot moment for me when I was like, this is it. Like I've lived 30 years in the shadows, in this, this version of myself that everybody has told me to be. I've failed. I've become their narrative. I'm literally doing nothing with my life. I'm at rock bottom right now and got to turn this around. I've got to do something for myself. And I spent like, a year and a bit just going on this personal journey of self-discovery to get to a place where I felt like if I came out and said, this is me, and if everybody around me didn't accept me for who I am, then I was okay being me. Like I could find peace in sitting with Nerissa and going, okay, this is who they are. And I love them for who they are. And I'm okay and I can accept them. Even if the world was like, I reject you. And at that point, I could have lost all my family, all my friends, literally everybody. But I needed to know that I could hold space for me, that I could be okay with me. And when I got to that point, like I think that was my turning point, when I could sit in the discomfort, in the mess, in the failure, in all of that shame and guilt and regret and frustration and everything, and just sit in that mess and go, okay, now where do I go?
Yeah.
And I often say, like, the beauty about rock bottom is that when you hit rock bottom,
You
the
can
only
only
way
go
really
up.
is up, right? There is no elsewhere I can
There is
go. Like,
nowhere else further down to go.
right, right. There is like
It's such a
literally no
beautiful
more
place.
space.
Rock
Right,
bottom is like a glorious place that most people don't want to get to, but I think that it's the most glorious place of your life if you can hit it. If
right.
you get the opportunity to hit rock bottom, it's an opportunity.
I love the way you said that. If you get the opportunity to hit rock bottom, take it. Take
Take
2
it.
rides to it. Buy
Yeah.
2 tickets because
Yeah.
you wanna be
2
there.
tickets. First
Yeah.
class. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there is no better learning that I've got in my life than hitting rock bottom. And I've hit rock bottom like multiple, like at different levels of rock bottom at different seasons and times in my life. But the journeys, things the lessons that you get from being at rock bottom, you do not get at any other place in your life. You do not get that lens. You do not get that perspective. You do not get that opening, that insight, that respect for anything, or even the space that you have to hold for yourself at rock bottom. I think allows you to then hold space for other people through whatever they're journeying through. And then from there, like bit by bit, I rebuilt. Like I had to take off. Like, I often say it's like when we're growing up, it's like everything that we hear is like this greasy, oily paint that's put onto us, right? Layer by layer. And then as we journey through, if those layers are not removed by the person putting it on, it then becomes our responsibility to take it off. So for every layer of that yucky, greasy gunk that was put on, I had to scrub it off and take it off. And layer by layer,
And
I had
some
to
of that layer, you added on to it too, because you kept.
absolutely
How many times have we just repeated the gook? People are long gone, but we're still saying the same thing about ourselves that they said. They're
correct.
6 feet under, but we're just painting that grease over and over as well. So, yeah, because there's that part of, how are you contributing to that as well, and how you've got to start listening to the voices in your head and saying, is this even my voice?
Right, right. Because you become the like. I mean, I'll say it as I became, not like because I want to make sure that I'm saying it for my truth. Like I became, like when I say I became the failure, I became the narrative Like, it wasn't now somebody else saying, "Hey, you're useless, you're worthless." I'm saying, "I'm useless, I'm
Right.
worthless, I will never be anything, I will never become anything, I am the failure."
And it's like, would you let somebody talk to you like that? No. But you're
No.
like the
No.
perpetrator now, right?
Right, right, right. Like, I'm like, I don't even need anybody now playing that track because that now has become the track. Like, it just plays on auto, like, and I often say, like, it's up to us then to change that track. Like, play
Right.
the track that you wanna listen to and then amp up the volume because everybody else is gonna play the track that they want, right? And in a world that we live in when there's so many people telling us who we should be and shouldn't be and how we should be, like, it's up to us to then just go, "Hey, no, no, no. This is who I am. This is who I want to show up as." And then layer by layer, build on who we get to be. And I think it's such a beautiful opportunity because it's who we get to be, like who we are and who we get to be. And we get to redesign that and reinvent that and recreate that and just show up as ourselves each day, like layer by layer by layer, like step by step, you're rebuilding. It's no one's saying like who you are today can't be like, who you need to be tomorrow. Like you get to rewrite that tomorrow again. You can erase it, change your story, like change your identity, change up how you dress. Like, I changed up how I dressed and how I looked. And through each layer, like it evolved and my identity evolved and my personality evolved and who I am. And I think, whilst there's so much of becoming, there's also so much in the unlearning and the unbecoming. And there was so much that I had to unbecome and unlearn and take off expectations and the weight of those expectations, the weight of carrying those beliefs and what they meant in my life and just, removing that and then creating new pathways for myself, new narratives and giving myself grace and, how I operate in them. And
Yeah.
that's still a learning, still a journey.
It's a work in progress. We're never done. You'll be done like
Never.
6 feet under. When your 2 eyes closed
Right.
permanently, you'll be done. But
Right.
in the process, in this, you're just always doing that. And that's, I think that's also something that is not talked about enough when it comes to you decide you're embarking on this journey. It's a lifetime commitment. The work is not like some kind of vacuum, in time that you get into the work and then you get out of the work. You're in the
Right.
work and you're going to continue to
Absolutely.
transcend yourself. You're literally keep transcending yourself. What I want you to talk about a little bit more is that, taking off these layers, taking off the gook. Reason why is because, I have conversations I have an older uncle that, we have these really deep conversations and he calls it that he's watching me remove my carcass. It's like
Yeah.
that's how he refers to it. Right. But and for me to even achieve that, I have to lean into some painful things. I have to lean into
Yeah.
the fact that part of the gook is mine. I have to lean into the fact that I wasted certain years of my life doing this, and acting these roles that were never really me. And you get confronted with all the things that come with having carried those layers because it's partly a death. Like it's a death. You're putting certain things to rest. You're putting certain beliefs to rest. You're putting certain identities to rest. And there were identities that served you at some point. You survived
Yeah.
certain environments because of those identities. So it's kind of like a bittersweet because you're also having to say goodbye to parts of yourself, say hello to parts of yourself. And that's the part that
Mm.
I think either scares people or it's just not fleshed out because it's done in the dark. It's done in those rooms that you and I go to where we can, lean in and cry and journal and all of that. So can you talk a little bit about that
Yeah. Yeah.
process?
Yeah, that. I love that you said that. And I love that you said about the leaning in and the willingness to do it. And the fact that a lot of people aren't. And like let's be real, like this stuff that we do day to day, the unpacking, the unlearning, the unbecoming, this whole journey of healing, it's yucky. It's ugh. It's not something that you want to just sign up to and say, "Hey, I'll take 2 rides to that. This is great. Sign me up." No, it's not all fun, and it requires some serious, hard looking at yourself in, a physical mirror, in an emotional mirror, in a metaphorical mirror, and unpacking some real hard truths. And sometimes it's sitting with all of the stuff that comes up and being willing to sit with yourself in all of those narratives that are playing and having some really hard conversations and asking yourself some really hard truths, because it is asking ourselves about, who have I been showing up as? Am I comfortable being this person? Like, where has this narrative come from? Because it's actually, we have to be willing to go back and unpack where that stemmed from. Because otherwise, if we're just trying to put kind of paint over the grease, it ain't going to work.
Right.
Like, if you just gotta put white paint over the gunky grease, it's not gonna work. You actually have
Still
to go
there.
back, scrub it off, right?
Hmm.
And it's the going back that sometimes we don't wanna go because it is painful. Like, the stuff that happened in the past where those narratives were created, there's pain, there's trauma, there's hurt, there's so much of emotion that is not tapped into. And the fears.
Survival. There's a
Right,
lot of
right,
survival. Survival doesn't feel good. Survival
right.
has a lot of, yuck energy built into it. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times because it's sometimes easier to cruise on that kind of autopilot to go, hey, I'm okay now. Like, I might not be doing great. I might not be where I am, but this feels comfortable enough to not rock the boat. And if I go back and unpack something that I haven't touched for so long, am I going to touch a version of myself that I'm not able to cope with or deal with? I'm not sure what it's going to bring up. The uncertainty of unpacking the past, all of that sits in it.
Right.
But it's only when we're willing to go back and look at what has happened, where it stemmed from, where those narratives have been created from. That's where it's in that unknown is where all the answers lie. It's in the willingness to go back and do the work, to sit in that, to unpack, and to then be willing to change the narrative. That's where the hard work is. And
The
it's
rewriting.
in rewriting, yeah. And sometimes, it's so hard, Cara, because like you and I know that when a belief has been there for so long, and like you said, the layers have been put on. They've been put on by other people, and then they get put on by ourselves. It becomes almost so hard to change a belief. Like, because I very strongly believe that, like, so one of my limiting beliefs, I can be vulnerable here, is it was that I was terrible at public speaking. Like, I shouldn't speak. I shouldn't like. And not that anybody had told me that I was bad at it, but it was because of that narrative that I was worthless, I was useless. I took that into the fact that, well, if I'm worthless and useless as a person, then I'm useless at public speaking. I couldn't do this. So it's whatever the lens has been, it could have been created like in on this track, but now we're taking it into everything else that we're doing. And then
Right.
how many of those beliefs were created in the past that now we're looking into like a forward going mirror because that's the only lens that we see through. Like,
Right.
you'll never be good at
And then
business. You'll
you
never make
miss
money.
opportunities. So when I did my retreat the other weekend, we talked about that. I'm like, do you realize the cost of not doing the work? The cost of not doing it. Yeah, I know it might feel shitty leaning into that. However, the loss of opportunity, the loss of impact, the joy you're leaving on the table, the money you could be making, the nurturing relationships you could be in, that's for someone that could actually see you for who you really are and not for this broken person that you once held as being
Yeah.
you, right? And so, even meeting you, I'm so thankful that you did the work because one of the things that you do, and I don't know if you're aware of it, is you are so aware of the room and where people are. I feel like, I think it happened, I don't know if you remember that we were at an event and I was getting stirred up. And I honestly didn't even realize I was getting stirred up because nothing, I did not have tears coming out. I was not manifesting that I was.
The internal was
But
crazy.
you were aware that I was internally activated. And all I remember is you were at the foot of my chair with a box of tissue. And I was like, how the fuck did she know? And as soon as you got there, then the waterworks, right? Because I was like, oh, she noticed. But can you imagine? Oh, I find myself like I now, because of all the work that I've done, I've now discovered that there was a giant living in me this entire time that now is just like out there because of this work that I've been doing. And you were part of that process. And can you imagine if you continued to live in this narrative and having not done the work, someone like me wouldn't have had the benefit of experiencing you. And you're talking about now being a international speaker. Do you know that? I mean, obviously you do, because the impact that you're having and that you wouldn't have had you stayed in that. So let's talk about that. Since doing the work, since leaning in, since embodying Nerissa, the one, right? The one and only Jesus. Like, I mean, seriously, like that part, right? The one and only. Because I talk about that, you are the only you, bro. That's your superpower. There's no one else like you. No one was born in India with the name Nerissa Trindade, with the upbringing in that environment, having gone through what you went through, the divorce, the having to fail the boards in the 12th grade, having to rebuild yourself. Like literally there's nobody else, not a damn soul else went through that journey. So only you can hold the space you hold. Only you can tell the story you tell with the accent, with the look, with the, right? Like, can we just talk about that? That's juicy, right? Like nobody can beat you at you, even if I wanted to. I can't touch your game. You can't touch mine. Let's be clear, right?
Right.
And
I
yet
love
we're
that.
kicking ass in our own ways, right? And having impact in our own ways. So now I know I just I got hot right here, but anyway,
Get hot. Yeah, totally.
but like, can you imagine not having done that? Now, being who you are, the impact you've been having with what you do. Let's talk about that. Because you are all the way in Australia right now recording with me. I know that's where you live. That's where you do your thing. But I met you in LA I think it's in LA the first time, or in Atlanta. Like we met on a campus all the way out here. So you are doing the damn thing and you are having the impact. You are holding space. You are continuing to change lives, including with your platform and on other people's platforms. Talk about what you have been able to do, being the real you,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
that version, what she has been able to do now.
That. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that.
think that's huge. Like, the piece that you said, like you can only be you, and like nobody else can do you the way that you do it. And everybody, like people can have similar parts of your story, but nobody is journeyed exactly what you've done. Like nobody has your exact footprint, like your exact DNA, like your exact journey, and all those little components that make you. And I think so many of us shy away from that, like shy away from, let's say, you-ness, like my you-ness, or what I call my uniqueness, in the Y or uniqueness, right? And it's more of how can I amplify more of that and be more of that, because we try, like, so many times now, and I think, even stepping into this world of entrepreneurship or like leadership, we try to be like someone else rather than going, hey, how can I amplify all the parts of me that are uniquely me? And it's so interesting because we think like all of our little differences make us stand out, and like they make us different, but actually they make us unique. And if we can tap into all the little bits, like the little spicy bits of ourselves that make us just us, like that is the beauty. That is the, like, the almost the equation, the definition that makes us who we are, and that makes us and gives us that unique superpower, right? And when we can tap into that, like literally, like people ask me, like, where does my confidence come from? Like, where does, the piece where I can just show up and talk on camera and be who I am? And I just say, well, I just show up as me now. Like, I don't have another version. Like, and they're like, what do you mean you show up as you? And I'm like, yeah, like I don't wake up and think who Nerissa needs to do or be, like I'm just me. And the liberation that comes from just showing up authentically as you, the liberation that comes from not having to think how I need to sit, stand, be, what I need to say. Like, I'm talking to you right now. There's no script, like there's no thinking. I didn't wake up and go, oh, I've got to talk to Kara. Like, what do I need to write down or think about? Like, this is real and
It's so
honest
funny because
conversation.
right before our call, I was talking to a friend and she's like, "Do you have questions for your guests?" I'm like, "No, I can't. If I have questions, then like I can't even listen to them because I'm trying to think about what I'm going to ask next. I want to have a conversation. So I trust what's going to come out of them and of me and it's going to flow." So yes.
It's just trusting that what we have inside of us is enough. Like me being me for me is enough for a time such as this. Like, yes, you can build skill, you can, be better at certain things, but at the core of who we are, like that is enough. And I think when you get to do that work and be that, showing up authentically as yourself, like there's no greater liberation, no greater peace, no greater like inner peace in being that. But
Right.
you spoke about the cost of not doing that, or the cost of staying where we are, and sometimes we don't realize that because there's no other view that people have. And I don't say this in any bad way, no shade here, because that was me, right? When I was not at the rock bottom, but sitting in that gunk for like 30 years of my life, I didn't see a way out. I didn't think that there was another way for me or another possibility for me. And
Right.
sometimes we have to step outside of the space where everything was created. So whether that's, stepping out of the classroom, stepping out of the family, stepping out of the country, stepping out of the boardroom, stepping out of wherever the problem was created, to take a breath, I need to take some time to go out and recalibrate, rethink, like, and then come back with a fresh perspective to go, okay, now I can see this differently. Because as long as we're sitting in that, there's no other view, there's no other way we can see it. And just layer by layer by layer of gunk is being put on. Paint and Greeks and everything has been put on, right? So you have to be willing to take even a step out, a pause out, to then come back and relook at it to see what it means. But since I've done the work, you're right. Like my life is completely unrecognizable. When I started to do the work and I started to be me and I started to work on, you know, parts of myself that it's really interesting. I'll share this with you. Like somebody recently shared with me and they said, "Oh my God, you're amazing at everything you do. Like, how can you be amazing at everything you do?" And I just paused and said, "Do you think I just do the things that I'm amazing at?" And they were like, "What?" And
Oh, good.
I'm like,
So
I
yeah,
don't
I
do
just do
everything.
the things that I know that I'm amazing at. So of course I'm
Right,
gonna be amazing at everything I do.
right, right. You don't see me doing the things that I'm crap at because I don't want to do that.
Right.
Right. So I just invested.
So that was so good. That was so good because I only do the things I'm amazing at.
Right.
Done.
Right. So if I can create a life that just allows me to do the things, yes, that, we're all adulting in this world and we've got to do all the stuff that we need to do. But if I can spend the majority of my time investing, focusing, and doing the things that I'm amazing at, that I'm good at, that I don't have to spend time building on skills, like get that outsourced, get the stuff that you're not good at, get somebody else to do it. They're incredible people in the world that are incredibly amazing at the things that I totally suck at.
Right.
But I'm going to spend my time doing the things that I'm amazing at. So people meet me, they go, "You're amazing at everything." I'm like, "Yeah, I just do the things I'm amazing at."
Yeah.
That part. But in saying that, like I've had doors open for me that I didn't think would open. I've sat in rooms that I didn't think would be possible. I've been on stages that I didn't dream of being on, sitting on platforms. Like I just hosted Speak and Write for Lisa Nichols. Like me sitting in Australia, like growing up in India, like who would have thought that I would host a show for Lisa Nichols, like an event for Lisa Nichols? Like I've been on platforms with an event that Tom Bilyeu spoke on, that I spoke at. I'm like, you don't think of that. That
Right.
that was not on my vision board. That was not like the kid growing up in India that wouldn't even speak in a classroom, in a meeting room. That's not something I dreamt of. But when you give yourself permission to change a narrative, to rewrite a story, to change the lens that everybody else is looking at you through, and you say, "Hey, this is my lens. This is what I'm going to look at the world through," and then you give people the lens that you want them to look at you through, everything changes.
Yeah.
Everything changes. And all I do today is just show up and be who I am authentically in every space that I go into. And then people see that version of me. And through that, doors open, spaces open. And when you can, and I think my impact started when I wasn't even wanting to impact a lot of people. It was just like, I want to change one life. If I can show up as me and change one person, like one child, one teenager, one adult, one teacher, one parent, to have a different conversation, to be a little different to who they are so that my 10-year-old version can go, okay, I can rest a little easier because like if I can be the person that my 10-year-old would have really, really wanted to have in their corner and I can change one person's life, then I'm done. I'm good. And I think through that, like the impact grew and then it was like, 500 people and 1,000 people and 10,000 people and more because it's just through that ripple effect, of just showing up and doing it. And, the income will come, the impact just increases, the influence, all that is all that good stuff. But I think it's just when you can touch another human being and see, like, even like hearing from you, like we had, like, we didn't spend like the whole of the event together. We might have had little interactions, but just hearing the difference that it made to you, like when you see that human to human transaction,
Right.
like I can like move my mouth and do something that then affects change in your life. Like I can be in a presence and just have my hands out and my being can affect a change in you and cause you to feel safe in my presence. Like nobody gives you credit for that. Like we get accolades for like and degrees for things, but just do we get like something for just holding space for another human being? Do we get like rewarded for just moving through life differently, like the things that triggered us before not triggering us now, the spaces that you go into, you operating differently, like I showing up different in my relationships, like I having different conversations with my mom, different conversations with my sister, different conversations with my friends now, like who's rewarding, we don't get rewarded for that. And I think it's up
Right.
to us to say, hey, these are the things that I want to score myself for. Like these are the things that I want to reward myself for so I can be more amazing at the things that I'm really amazing at?
Yeah. And, one thing that you said, and I really want to underline that, is that sometimes you have to remove yourself from certain spaces to get to where you're talking about. And I'm going to tell you why I feel like that's so important is because when you do the work that we're talking about here, there are some goodbyes. There are some, I gotta love this person at a distance. I've gotta love this environment at a distance. I've got to, because, in the name of loving myself, in the name of honoring myself, in the name, because what happened with you is you stopped trying to force the people who didn't really like the version of you, didn't like you, right? You were not the it person for those
Right.
people the way you came out, right? You were willing to release the need for their approval or release the need for it to work with them to open yourself to a world of people who like you just the way you are. And I say all the time, there are 8 billion people on this planet. If a group of people don't like you, that's okay, right? Just find the people that like you. Find the
Find the
spaces
people.
that naturally like you, that naturally like you as you, that you don't have to contort yourself, that you don't got to sit up straight. Get out of the room that requires you to sit differently than how your body naturally wants to sit. Oh my goodness.
Mm,
We are
mm.
all branches of the same tree. So we can't be like everybody else. We've got to be ourselves and also be feed and be fed by the spaces or the branches that are a little more connected to the connected to, right? Maybe a little
Right, that.
more you're good at. And
Yeah.
so it's like find people who are like you, who geek out on the same things or who can appreciate your uniqueness. Stop trying to do a show for people who can't see the value of you. And I say that because, oh my goodness, how long did I try to make relationships that were not
Worked.
working try to work?
Yeah.
How much did I try to make people who didn't like me like me? How much did I try to do that? And how much energy I've spent doing that? And then, as soon as I was willing to just let them go, let that go, let all of, they just took their rightful place, faded some, ended some, and then made space for such beautiful connections, supportive connections. Like you said, you end up in rooms that you never thought you'd be in because that's where your people actually are, right? And you never realize that who you are actually belongs in sometimes way greater rooms than the ones you're trying to maintain. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about that. Some of the
Yeah.
goodbyes or some of the, I, I'm gonna love you, but I'm gonna leave you over there while I do that. I'm not mad at you, but you are blocked, right?
Well, I might be a little mad at you as well. Let's just say.
That's
I
okay.
might be a little
That's okay. That's okay.
That's
No judgment. It's okay. We're safe
judgment.
space.
No,
It's okay. Right? So talk a little bit about that because how important is that for us to also acknowledge that that's part of the process, right?
100%. I mean, like so true in that. Like, we've got to, there's a part to the fact that like people will see us at the point at which they met us. Like if somebody met me, like, when I was 20, like that's the lens that they have. If somebody met me when I was 10, that's the lens they have. If somebody met me 2 years ago, that's the lens they have. Now, my lens, like how I view myself has changed, and I can go back and give them that lens to view me. I can't force them to view me through that lens. I can
Mm.
go, okay, this is who I am now. Would you like to see me through the lens of who I am now? But it's up to them whether they choose to or not. And sometimes people will grow with you on that journey, and there will be people that come through life and move with us and, will evolve with that as we do with them. But there are other people that will keep viewing me from, like, if I was at my rock bottom and that's where they met me, they will only meet me at that rock bottom. No matter
Right.
what lessons I take through, no matter who I become now, no matter what I go back and teach, they will only see me through that lens because that's the only lens and perspective that they have of me. And the piece that I've also learned to accept is that I can't change who I am in somebody else's story. I can only change who I
Run
am in
that
mine.
back. Run that back.
Right?
Cannot change who I am in somebody else's story. I
Right.
can't. You
Yeah.
can't.
You can't. So the version of me that they're gonna like that I'm gonna be when they tell the story is who I'm gonna be in their story. And I'm okay for you to go and tell that version of your story about me. It could be my story that you're telling, but that's your version, and I can't change who I am in your story. All I get to be is who I am in mine, and I get to tell my story. I get to recreate my story, rewrite my story, change my narrative as many times as I want. Each day, every day, multiple times a day. And I can say it the way I want to say it because it's my story. I'm playing the track. I'm rewriting it. I get to do
You
whatever I
are
want.
the main character.
I am the main character. I'm showing up with main character energy now. And I'm not even listening or hearing what you need to say about my
I don't
story because
care.
that's yours.
Yeah, and then that's another thing. It's like, who cares? If that's
Right.
your story, that's your story. Why do I need to have any kind of impact or manage, that? And I think that that's this illusion of control that people think they have, regardless of how you feel about it. They're going to have that narrative. So might as well just mind your business, which is you, your story, your narrative of who you are and how you show up in the world. This idea that you can change somebody's thinking is like, it's ludicrous that we ever even thought that possible. Like, you'll never be able to change the way that I think about anything. Like, this is where, and you could tell me till you're blue. You could explain yourself, like you said. I can even try to have you have the lens. I'm still going to look at it through the lens that I experienced you, and that's
Yeah. And that's where the energy goes, right? In the same way we were talking about the energy put into the not me version, like then my energy goes into putting it into the narrative that you're creating of me, where I'm not interested in changing the story that you have of me. I'm just interested in changing my story. So I'm not going back to unpack, like somebody that I met in school or some, person growing up that has this version of me that I'm now going back and going, okay, can you please see me through this lens? Like, please, like, let's change your narrative. Let's erase what you have on your board and let's change it. I'm not wasting my time on that because that's
right.
time taken away from me changing and rewriting and being all the amazing things that I can be.
And having
I
the impact for your actual
Right,
tribe that is gonna
right,
that that really that would matter for, right?
right.
And I think that that's the one. It's like what you're holding on to, really the narrative and the people, if they don't like you or they have some kind of thing about you, that's not even your audience anyways for what you are up to
That's not
today.
even your audience anyway, right?
It's not your audience. I'm going to tell you one of the things that recently I had this conversation because I've been upping my game on social media. I was like, you know what?
I've been looking at that game being up there.
Okay. I
Up.
was like, you know what? He's gonna go full throttle on him. Okay, I want to go full throttle on him. I know how to do this thing. You know, no holds back. And again, it's super eclectic because I'm eclectic. So some days I'm classy attorney, some days I'm gangsta, right? So
There.
idea what I'm gonna give, right? So see, sometimes it's a Cardi B track, and sometimes it's Mozart, like or Beethoven, like
Yeah,
whatever. You
yeah,
know, one of
yeah.
them softer stuff. So I don't know what I'm gonna give, but I give you what I feel like. So, anyways,
All of you.
so I'm giving all of me, and the reason why is because someone said to me, it was feedback on the content and this and that. And I said, and she said, "Wow, how are you so free?" And I said, "It's because I'm completely unattached to how it's received. I'm not doing it for the likes. I'm doing it for the impact. I'm doing it for my actual right fit audience to find me. I know that there are a lot of people who follow me that are just watching. They're lurkers, they're family people from my past, and they're probably taking me in like, what the heck is going on with this chick? Like, we don't even recognize her. The people who I know are not going to appreciate the content, I also know are not my audience. And so they will either unfollow or, they might just stick around and then decide to like me again or whatever. But I am so detached from that. And I'm sure, and you can speak on that, I'm sure that that's where your now confident speaking came from. It's like you're more attached to the impact than you are to how Nerissa looks and how people receive you. You want the message to land. You want the person who needs to hear what you have to say to get what she came for, what he came for, not so much how you're looking in the process. And it's so liberating because then your full creative juices can flow. You can just come out and do your thing and just, it's like spaghetti. You just throw stuff on the wall and see what sticks. And
Right,
if this one is a home
right,
run, it's like, okay, I'll do more of that, right?
right,
And
right.
so, yeah, so talk about how you can relate to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like so much, I relate to about, the likes and not doing it for the likes. Recently told me like, there's a setting on Instagram where you can turn off how many people like, and they're like, why don't you turn that off? And I'm like, why would I? And they're like, oh, turn. I'm like, it doesn't bother me. Like, I'm not doing it for the number of likes. It doesn't bother me if I put up a post and it gets 2 likes because there's so many people that are impacted by it that might not even push their finger to like something. So,
When you
and it
start
could,
looking at the views, you realize that people are
right,
watching. They're just not interacting with the post, but they are.
right.
My views are insane. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
people are watching and like I go out and I meet people that, like because I live in Australia, like I go when I'm traveling and stuff, I'll meet people and they'll come up to me and they'll say something that I said or they'll interact with me from a video of mine and I'm like, "Wait, when did you watch that? Or when did you see that?" Or like it's that impact or it's somebody hearing something you've said and doing something in their life. Like I far rather that impact than somebody going and liking my post and I have all these likes and then not making any impact. Like I far rather affect someone's life that they actually go and do something and change their life, and I see
yeah.
that change happen, right? But sorry, what was the next part of the question? I
No,
got
that
so
was the question, and you answered it. It's like, no, because I asked you also for the speaking, because that's the next thing I want to ask you is,
yeah,
you have a speaking platform, and
yeah,
that was a fear that you had to overcome. And oh my God, do people have the fear of speaking? And then, you and I are like, we'll actually volunteer to do that, right? Like we lean into it. Oh my God, my cousin's like, every time I think of speaking, I want to throw up, and then you just like put yourself out there to speak. Like, who does that? So
yeah,
talk about that because isn't that also where some of that not only confidence but also that just getting out of your head and getting over that fear to just come out and say what you got to say. It's just you're more
right.
concerned with the impact, you're more concerned about that. So talk about that because I'm sure that's part of what you've got to get your clients on your speaking platform to get, Because if you want to get
Absolutely.
the story out there, you've got to, you also have to be willing to share it regardless of how someone else is going to perceive you, but more for the impact that it's going to have and for what it's going to, the space is going to hold for somebody else. So talk
Right,
about
right.
that.
It's interesting because, like, a lot of people say they have a fear of speaking, but it's not really a fear of speaking that they have. It's the fear of them speaking and then something going wrong, or the fear of them speaking and what will people say once people hear what I've said, or will I not say the thing I'm meant to say, or how will I sound, or how will I look, or how will I stand? It's not actually the speaking. Like, if you just spoke to them, they would speak okay. Like, there's no problem in actually speaking or conveying what they want, but it's the pressure of how am I going to perform in front of other people? How am I going to be in front of other people?
Perform.
Right? How am I gonna, like, exactly, perform? And I think for
It's
me, it was
performing,
not
it's acting. It's like it's an acting job that you're thinking you're gonna fulfill versus a being yourself job.
versus of being. And exactly for me, like, it was the doing rather than the being. And for me, it wasn't a fear of speaking; it was the fear of being me. It was the fear of how can I be? How can I stand up and not be me? And in the thing of standing up and not being me, there was so much of fear in being me that my voice was shut. So it wasn't the fear of speaking; it was just the fear of anybody looking at me like me for me. And the moment, like, I could release that fear of just, like, now when I show up, the reason, like, I am not, I wouldn't say unscripted, but it's more like, it's authentic, it's vulnerable. Like, there's no filter, there's no lens. Like, I'm not showing up and thinking, what are people going to think? I'm showing up in a way that is for people. I'm like, when I speak, I want to speak so you can take something away from it and do something with that. It's not a performance where I need you to look at me and then stand and clap for me. No, I want you to take something away from it and feel that connection where you can sense the emotion, you can feel the connection of what I've been through and you're navigating through, and we make that human to human connection, right? But so often people want to get up and speak from a way or a place where it's not authentic to who they are. It's a
Right.
voice that they've heard, or a way that they should stand. I mean, like, I grew up in a school where I was taught I need to stand and speak like that. Like, I need to stand and speak like that, or stand and speak with my hands down my side. And my personality is not that. Like, if you've ever seen me on stage, there is no way we're standing still. I don't even stand on, like, a lectern or a podium. I'm like, give me a mic that I can roam, like, speak with my entire body. Like, my whole body moves and I have really big gestures, but that's who I am. And for the longest time, I was trying to fit into this box of who I was not. I was trying to speak like standing straight, and that wasn't Nerissa. So as long as I'm trying to be somebody I'm not, you'll never hear my authentic voice. I'll never be able to give you a vulnerable side of me because I can't tap into that when I'm trying to not be me. But you put me up on stage, you just say speak however you want to. Now I'm not trying to be another version of me. And that's so much of what I teach in my space. It's not about, yeah, you come onto my platform and I'll teach you speaking techniques. But the first thing we do is unpacking who you are. The first thing we do is making sure that you feel safe and you feel comfortable in being you. Because when you can be you and you speak from a place of you, now you're not speaking in anybody else's voice. You're not speaking in anybody else's tone. You're not telling anybody else's story. Now you give yourself permission to share your story as you, uniquely as you. And then
Uniquely as you. Yeah.
so much comes up. Like, I've had somebody somebody go from like sharing their story sitting to like just standing up. I've gone people like like in tears being able to go, I've never tapped into that part of my story. I've never shared that emotion because I've never felt safe, being that version of me. And I'm like, what version have you been for so long? What version of you are you being? Right? We get into this doing rather than being. And if we can just be who we have been all along, I often say, like, be who you were before the world told you who to be. Be that
Yeah.
version of you, right? And if we can be that version, then there's no layer. Then you're not thinking about how somebody else is going to perceive this because there is no other way to be.
Listen, what I'm hearing, and I love that that's where you just landed with that, is, until you do this and get to where you're talking about, it's like literally walking with two left shoes on. It's a
Literally.
clusterfuck. It really is. It's what they call, it's a clusterfuck. Cause you literally are like, it's it's uncomfortable. It's unmanageable. And this space that I'm in right now and that I know you're in, I recognize it, and that we've taken ourselves to. I wish that on 15-year-old, the 10-year-old, the
Yeah.
20-year-old, the earlier that they can get unmasked, the larger the life, right? The more expansive this human experience can be. And I always say, we're only out here for about 28,000 days, and then, and then lights off,
Right.
right? Lights off.
Right.
We're alive. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is your life, and that's
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
And when you look
And I
at
love that you said lights off. Like lights off is so, like, it resonates with me so much, because like when I tell my story, I actually say I turned the light off. Like, because I didn't want to be seen or heard, I turned the light off, and I turned the light off in me. And when you
right,
when you said light off, it just resonated, because yes, we'll turn our light off then, but so often we're turning our light off now. Like, stop
correct.
turning your light off now.
And
Just
so
wait.
now here you
Right.
are, you've done killed yourself off.
Right.
But meanwhile, you're still physically living, but you've
Right.
killed your essence off. And so, I'm on this right now. That's the journey I'm on. It's like, wake up, wake up. Okay.
Wake
Come
up.
on.
Turn
Come
the
on.
lights out.
Let's turn the lights on and let's turn your authentic light on. Stop trying to be somebody else. That's already taken, right? And every time you're trying to be somebody else and not you, you're kind of insulting you. You're bomb just the way you are. You're her, you're him, you're it, you're them, you're you. Right. So step into that, embrace that. Don't it, it's the opportunity of a lifetime is to be yourself. And so don't waste that opportunity trying to be bits and pieces of somebody else and performing and encumbering yourself with that kind of heaviness and this energy of performing when there's a better, lighter
Yeah.
way to do it.
Yeah.
Granted, you might have to go through a bit of a process because, there's a lot of unlearning because we were not raised and taught to do that, right?
No.
Unfortunately, that's just not the way it worked. The human experience, you come in, there's already a narrative going on between your parents, your family, your country, all of that. You show up and then boom, now you got to adapt. But in the unlearning, there's so much freedom. So Nerissa, this was so good. This was so good, which I knew it was going to be this good.
So good.
I knew it
You've
was
like
going to be
woken
this
up
good.
my morning right now. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have such a good day going forward. It is like,
I know it's still super early for you, but before I let you go, just two things. Of course, one is where can our listeners find you if they want to look into your speaking platform and what you do for speakers so that they can find you? And also, just one, if you have someone listening right now that is where Nerissa was with lights off, right?
yeah,
Lights off,
yeah,
just one bit of advice, or really just what's the first step, what's the first step in turning that light back on? So, and I know you've given us a gazillion other gems, so I'm just greedy, okay? So
take what I got this morning. I don't know what's gonna come out when I
I'm
open
like,
my mouth, but
I got
whatever
to
comes
bubble
out
the
is
juice
yours.
out. I'm literally like,
It's yours.
what else can I get?
Where can you find me? So my website is www.nerissatrindade.com, and on all socials, it's Nerissa Trindade across Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Yeah, all the good
And
socials. Yeah.
that'll be in the show notes. Yes.
Perfect. And in terms of what I would say to someone, I think if you can take anything out from here is just go out and be you. There's so many versions that people will tell you to be. They'll look at you through their lens, and don't worry about what lens they're giving you. Just be all of who you can be, and then give people the lens that you want them to see you through. And know that it doesn't matter where you've come from, what's happened. Nothing of it matters. All that matters is who we are here and now. And each day we get to rewrite and retell our story. So, think about like, what part of my story am I writing today that's going to be worth reading tomorrow?
And on that note, we are dropping this mic. So thank you so much, Nerissa. That was amazing. And I look forward to having you again. This was so good. So good.
Anytime, like, we can jump back on, we can go deeper on something, we can like unpack
Absolutely.
something. Like, conversations like this are just incredible. I love them. I love, like, just, Yeah, chewing the fat on anything.
Love it, love it. Until next time.
You were just listening to the Unfiltered with Kara podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to receive new episode notifications. Also, if you found value in this content, please take a moment to like, comment, and share it with those you love. Until next time, much love and light to you and yours.